brought that from overseas. Sounds British.
It's a good one, right?
Very nice.
It's a cute story.
Yes.
Man, the piano's so out of tune.
That gives me an excuse.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Welcome. I'm Rabbi Jonathan Blake. I am feeling good. I'm really, really happy to be back with you. Your good wishes have been sustaining. I had a mild but unpleasant case of COVID, and I tested negative today, and my blood chicken soup level is over the legal limit. So thank you to all of you for caring for me so kindly. Our wonderful cantorial intern, Isaac Sonnet Asor, has COVID. So we had hoped he would be making music with us tonight. We'll send some healing prayers his way in our hearts as well. I'm thrilled that I'm joined on the bima by cantors Amanda Kleiman and Danielle Radnitsky, by rabbis Daniel Reeser and David Levy, by temple president Warren Haber, by incredible spiritual artists Pete Malinverni, Jerome Morris, and Idan Sandhaus, who will lift our spirits in song tonight. We have much to celebrate and much to acknowledge with gratitude, but most of all, the ability to be together and see one another. Would you please just turn and introduce yourself to somebody you haven't yet said hi to tonight? Wish that person Shabbat Shalom. Tomorrow morning, Theo Hochberg will be called forward to the Torah on this bima to celebrate Bar Mitzvah. And in the afternoon, Maya Glazer and Sarah Mayer will each celebrate Bat Mitzvah. We would love for our Bar and Benot Mitzvah to come forward at this time with their families to help us kindle the lights for Shabbat. Amen. So to all of our families that are celebrating, you come here to kindle light and to share the light of your love of your family and Jewish tradition, the love of Torah, at an auspicious time on the Jewish calendar, the time that connects the Passover festival to the coming spring festival, Shavuot, called Omer. We're supposed to count off each and every night. And we know that for Theo and Sarah and Maya, you've been counting off days and days and days, and now your special weekend is finally here. May you make it count with love, with joy, and with memories that will last a lifetime. Mazel tov. And so we're going to continue praying together, joining our voices in song, starting on page 138. And when we sing Lecha Dodi, we'll kind of indicate how many verses we're doing. We usually sing verses 1 and 2, 5, and then for the last verse, we'll stand up together, face the entrance of the sanctuary, and welcome the Sabbath bride. 138.
Lecha Dodi, Likrat
146.
Baruchu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bidvaro mariv haravim bechokma poteach she'arim. God of creation, who makes the evening fall from light into darkness with the setting of the sun, you unfold the heavens with brilliant moon and stars and wrap our souls with peace. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bidvaro mariv haravim bechokma poteach she'arim. Baruch atah Adonai Hamariv Haravim.
152.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ושוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Ugh. I can't take all of this mud in my shoes. I know, I wish my shoes weren't so dirty. I don't think I'll ever feel clean again. Why do we live in a world where something this terrible can happen? Who could have thought this was a good idea? I am so frustrated. 10 years ago, I learned this story. Rabbi Marcus Burstein of blessed memory taught it to our entire congregation. It's the tale of two Israelites,
and their walk between the walls of water in the escape from Egypt. Behind them is certain death and perpetual enslavement. In front of them is freedom and endless possibilities. And for these two hapless Israelites, none of that matters. All that matters is the mud between their toes, squelching and sliding through their shoes. Friends, I don't have to ask if you've looked at the world this way before. I've sat with many of you as we face the frustrations of the moment and allowed our frustrations to cloud our perspective. Frustrated that attendance was low at the Jewish Learning Lab one day and missing the smiling children engaging in joyful Jewish learning. Angry about wearing face masks indoors, wishing that this pandemic no longer exists, and missing the beautiful music that we were creating together just a few moments ago. Aggrieved by falsehoods and misrepresentations that are blurted out without regard for their impact. Even though we may feel powerless to stop it, we do have the power to decide how we will respond to it. Bemoaning that it's too cold and rainy out today when we will be fetching that it is too hot tomorrow. All the while not stopping and breathing in the beauty of the world around us. It's so easy to focus on the mud and the muck. It's so easy to be drawn into our own negativity bias, feeling powerless to change the situation we find ourselves in. So easy to blame others for the situation, even when so many of the situations are far beyond anyone's control. Unfortunately, we're hardwired to think this way. Negativity bias is a part of the human condition. If we were given 2 pieces of positive news and 1 negative note, the classic feedback sandwich, the negative note will stick to us far longer, consume so much more mental energy, and ensure that any positive details are probably drowned out. We are all guilty of dwelling on that negative news to the exclusion of anything else. It takes conscious effort to reframe our focus and to try to see the possibilities in front of us. Our tradition challenges us to think different. Far before Steve Jobs popularized the phrase, our tradition has commanded us over and over again to look at the world differently, to reframe the narrative, to always live with hope that our lives, our civilization, our world might be better. That intentional reframing is what I find so compelling about our tradition. The last act of a funeral is a chesed shel emet, a true act of loving kindness as we help our loved one find their eternal rest, attempting to empower us to give to someone else, even in our profound moment of loss. The shattering of the glass at a wedding ensures that even in the midst of great joy, we don't lose sight of the injustice in our world and our responsibility to stamp it out. And litaken olam b'malchut Shaddai, to perfect our broken world in partnership with the Most High. Every baby naming invites Elijah in, the harbinger of a better world, as together we hope that this new life will create the world we are all dreaming of. Micha Mocha challenges us every time we offer it to see the possibilities and not just the problems, to seize the chance to make a better world and to collaborate with others to build it, to recognize the frustration of our dirt-filled shoes and not to be weighed down by them. I'm proud of the work we did together to make this small part of our world better. A place of joyful learning, a place where joys and sorrows could be recognized and embraced, a place where we might repair some of the brokenness in our world and in ourselves. Thank you for being my partner in that work over these past 10 years. please join us in offering Mi Chamocha on page 158 as we pray for a better world and the strength to reframe our perspective and embrace all the possibilities that exist before us.
Page 160, our Hashkivenu prayer, asking God to spread a sukkah of peace over us each night.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Leshalom Leshalom
Hashkivenu
We rise for the Amidah on page 164. אברהם, אלוהי יצחק ואלוהי יעקב, אלוהי שרה, אלוהי רבקה, אלוהי רחל ואלוהי לאה, האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה, מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה, אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, מוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומידו מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישוע, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש. We now take a moment for a few minutes of private reflection.
please rise for our Torah service.
Shabbat Shalom. Tonight we read from Parashat Behar toward the end of the book of Leviticus. The section of the portion Cantor Radnitsky will be chanting discusses the sabbatical year, the opportunity we give to the land every seventh year to rest and renew in the same way that we take this time over Shabbat for our own renewal each week. We thought it would be fitting this evening for our congregation to honor Rabbi Levi and Rabbi Reeser through the reading of Torah. It goes without saying, of course, that our rabbis have served as exceptional teachers of Torah in our community. The word Torah, which means instruction or direction, comes from the Hebrew root yud, resh, he, meaning to throw or to guide or even to point in the right direction. often used in the context of a person expertly guiding an arrow toward its target. Even as our rabbis have been teachers of Torah, this holy book from which we read this evening, they have, in the broadest sense, served as our guides through the most important moments of our lives, helping to point us toward a life infused with meaning and Jewish values. I certainly count myself among those who have benefited from the guidance, wisdom, and support of Rabbi Reeser and Rabbi Levy, perhaps best evidenced by the frequency with which I show up at their office doors, generally uninvited, but always welcomed, just to get their take or to hear their advice on how to address a particular challenge. Tonight, as part of our ritual of reading of the Torah, we have invited those families for whom Rabbi Reeser or Rabbi Levy has been a moreh, a teacher or a guide through a life cycle moment, to help honor and to thank our rabbis with Aliyah to the Torah. For our first Aliyah to the Torah, I would like to invite to rise in their seats all of the families for whom Rabbi Reeser has officiated at a life cycle event, whether he blessed your child at the Ark as B'nai Mitzvah, stood under the chuppah with you or your loved one to sanctify your marriage, helped to lay your loved one to rest, or helped to bless new life at a baby naming in your family. If Rabbi Reeser has guided your family through a life cycle event, please rise in your seats and join me in reciting the blessing over the Torah. We'll hold up the words, but in case they're too far away for you, you can find them in your prayer books on page 368. Baruch hu et Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach leolam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol hamim, v'natan lanu et Torato, Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
Amen. Vaydaber Adonai el Moshe behar Sinai lemor. Daber el bnei Yisrael ve'amarta aleihem ki tavo'u el haaretz asher ani noten lachem ve'shaveta haaretz Shabbat ladonai shesh shanim tizra sadecha ve'shesh shanim tizmor karmecha ve'asafta et tevuata uvashana hashvi'it Shabbat Shabbaton yehieh la'aretz Shabbat ladonai sadecha lo tizra ve'charmecha lo tizmor.
Now I would invite all of those families for whom Rabbi Reeser officiated at a life cycle event to rise once more as we recite the blessing after the Torah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Please be seated. And now to offer a few words of blessing on behalf of all those families for whom Rabbi Reeser has officiated at a life cycle event, I would like to invite forward Matt Levine, a member of our Board of Trustees.
Shabbat shalom. Okay. It's Ben Hoffer's fault. Tell him I said so. Okay. Here you go. Thank you. Rabbi Reeser, we are here tonight to celebrate your contributions to our synagogue, to our community, and to our lives. In your 6 years at Westchester Reform Temple,
You have been an inspiring leader of Torah and an embodiment of what it means to live a life of Jewish values. My family and I first got to know you through your leadership of the Mitzvah Corps and its various community activities. But I am here to specifically recognize your impact on the life cycle events shared by so many of us over the years. You brought a steady hand and a calm voice to the otherwise stressful and chaotic experience we have come to call bar and bat mitzvahs here in Scarsdale. We all appreciate the sincerity you bring to all of your interactions, and not just with the parents, but with the students themselves. You have a way of empowering people by working with them, not talking to them or at them. I can speak from experience, as my family was fortunate enough to work with you during my daughter's bat mitzvah last year. It wasn't the easiest of times, as protocols were changing by the week, or so it seemed. But you made us all feel connected, even over Zoom, and provided the reassurance that we were all looking for. And when I asked my daughter to describe what it meant to her to work with you, she talked about the support she felt from you and the comfort level you brought to your interactions. It is one thing to be able to make sure our children know the prayers and can lead a service for this special occasion. It is quite another to accomplish all of this while also making each student feel special. That you have done time and time again. For this and for everything else, I thank you, we thank you, and we will miss you.
Thank you, Matt. And for our second Aliyah to the Torah, I would like to invite to rise in your seats all of those families for whom Rabbi Levy has officiated at a life cycle event for your family. You can find the Aliyah blessings on page 368. Baruch hu et Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach leolam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bahar banu mikol hamim venatan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Amen. Et sefiach ketzirecha lo tiktzor, ve'et inevei nezirecha lo tivtzor, shenat Shabbaton yehieh la'aretz, ve'haita Shabbat ha'aretz lachem le'ochla, lech ul'avdecha ve'la'amatecha, ve'lischirecha ul'toshavecha hagarim imach, ve'livhemtecha ve'lachaya asher be'artzecha, tihiyeh chol tevuata lechol.
And all of those families for whom Rabbi Levy officiated a life cycle event, please rise and join me in the blessing after the Torah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Please be seated. And now, on behalf of all of those families for whom Rabbi Levy officiated a life cycle event, I would like to invite forward Cheryl Spivak-Braun, a member of our Board of Trustees, to offer a few words of blessing to Rabbi Levy.
I'm going to make sure.
We'll get there.
Thank you. And he corrects the microphone immediately because this is how good he is. Rabbi Levy, on behalf of all the families for whom you have been present during an important milestone moment, we would like to thank you for your kindness, your compassion, wisdom, humor, guidance, and especially your leadership. As I reflect on all of life's milestones, I recall lyrics from The Lion King. It's the circle of life, and it moves us all through despair and hope, through faith and love, till we find our place on the path unwinding in the circle of life. You have walked beside us through all of our life journeys, sometimes holding our hands, encouraging us forward, lifting us up, grieving with us, or leading us through spiritual exploration. When the JLL was in transition, you stepped in, reshaped it, and guided many of our children to their B'nai Mitzvahs and confirmations. Your passion for children, education, and lifelong learning are reflected in so many things that you do. Many of our congregation's 8th graders and parents traveled with you to Georgia and Alabama and across the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma for a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to explore civil rights and human rights and enjoy sweet tea together. I would like to personally thank you for so many meaningful gifts you've shared with my family, from walking in the Making Strides Against Breast Cancer walk 10 years ago to our civil rights trip, to suggesting URJ camps that I can say literally changed my children's lives. I am confident that I can speak for all of the families to say thank you for the gift of your spiritual inspiration. As you embark on the next stage in your journey, please know that we are ever grateful for you and for sharing yourself with us these past 10 years. We will miss you.
With gratitude to you, Cheryl, to you, Matt, for your beautiful words of blessing, and with gratitude to this entire congregation for the blessing of your presence this evening to pay tribute to our rabbis, I invite the congregation now to please rise as we return the Torah to the Ark.
Shabbat Shalom. The name of this week's Torah portion, Behar, means on the mountain. Mountains figure prominently in Jewish tradition. On Mount Sinai, the mountain of this week's Parsha, God gives instruction. On Mount Ararat, Noah's Ark found its shore. On Mount Nebo, Moses breathed his last. On Mount Tabor, Deborah vanquished the enemy. On the slope of Mount Zion, David built his city. On Mount Moriah, Abraham's faith was tested, and later, the great temple would arise, Jerusalem's pride and pinnacle. Mountains symbolize great accomplishments and noble challenges, summits attained, and new vistas revealed. So it should come as no surprise that we are making a mountain out of a moment as we pay tribute to Rabbis David Levy and Daniel Reeser, who have served our congregation with such vigor and distinction, not only climbing the mountain of professional attainment, but much more, guiding us in our own Jewish journeys up the mountains of faith and learning, of life cycle celebrations and commemorations. And if the last 2 years and more have felt especially steep and jagged, then let it be known that Rabbi Levi and Rabbi Reeser have been among our most dedicated and tireless Sherpas, helping us all to carry the burden. Each of our 2 associate rabbis has distinguished himself over years of dedicated service to WRT. And in their so doing, I have observed, and shall observe in these remarks, that each one of them has lived up to his own biblical namesake. So let us consider Rabbi Daniel Reeser, who has in so many ways been for our community like Daniel of the Bible. And who was Daniel of the Bible? Well, he's a bit of an enigma, to be honest. Was he a scholar, a prophet, a magician, an iconoclast, a charmer, a charismatic leader? He was all of these and more. But above all, Daniel was a dreamer and a dream interpreter. Daniel excels in understanding and explaining arcane codes and symbols, deciphering a mysterious script written by a ghostly hand at a feast. It is Daniel to whom we now ascribe the original phrase, the writing on the wall. Described originally in the book of Daniel as one of the handsome young Israelites, Daniel comes of age during the reign of the Babylonian tyrant Nebuchadnezzar. In this time of turmoil for the Israelite people, Daniel distinguishes himself for his wisdom, his calm, and his ability to navigate the perils and politics of the Babylonian court. Now, Rabbi Reeser came to Westchester Reform Temple in the spring of 2016, a time of unprecedented turmoil and tension in our community, country, and world. And well, it hasn't exactly been smooth sailing ever since. For 6 years, he has exemplified all of Daniel's best qualities: perseverance in the face of challenges, equanimity of spirit even when put to the test, wisdom, savvy, and earnestness. Above all, Rabbi Reeser has shown himself a masterful interpreter of our sacred texts and traditions. His leadership in education and adult education has brought us an insightful Bible as literature class, and his leadership established WRT as Westchester's first site for the internationally esteemed Florence Melton School for Adult Jewish Learning. He has led nuanced conversations on race and racism in a Jewish context, which requires not only a depth of factual knowledge, but also intellectual and emotional sensitivity. To our families, to our youth and teens, he has been a compassionate, fun, and engaging teacher and prayer leader, unlocking for them Jewish spirituality and Torah study as relevant and enjoyable pursuits. And in his artful and humane preaching and pastoring, he has endeared himself to our entire WRT community. We know that the congregation of Temple Beth Shalom in Hastings will be richly blessed by all of these qualities, especially by their new rabbi's gifts as a pastor, teacher, and interpreter of ancient wisdom. Daniel, may you continue to give a good name, not only to yourself, but to your loving family, to the Jewish tradition, to God, Torah, and the people of Israel. The congregation of Temple Beth Shalom is fortunate to welcome you this summer as their associate successor rabbi, and we look forward to celebrating within the next 2 years when you are officially installed as that congregation's new senior rabbi, becoming only its second such senior rabbi in more than 50 years. Daniel, may you continue to reveal the mysteries and wonders of the Jewish tradition to our people and to all whom you meet, inspiring them as you always do. And now a few words about Rabbi Levi's namesake. And now all of you Bible nerds can stop worrying. I offer no ham-fisted comparisons to King David, the boy warrior who slew the Philistine Goliath, the leaping dancer who embarrassed his wife by frolicking with the Holy Ark in front of the Israelite throngs, or, God forbid, the power-drunk monarch who summoned Bathsheba to his chambers while plotting to have her husband killed in battle. King David is a lot of things, but a paragon of rectitude is not one among them. So you can all relax, because it is not to a king that our David bears closest resemblance. I refer rather to the Levi, the biblical priest of the Israelite community, the one who was responsible for safeguarding all of the holy laws, traditions, rituals, community gatherings, celebrations, bereavements, illnesses, and recoveries. The biblical Levi was all of these things and more. Above all, he was a sacred caretaker for the Israelite community. It was the Levi who made sure that the offerings were properly prepared and presented. It was the Levi who organized the ritual life for the entire Israelite people, making sure that a system of norms and standards could be institutionalized and followed for religious life across all the diverse tribes and their territories. It was the Levi who ministered to the young and the old, the sick and the frail, and who also oversaw the proper assembly and disassembly of the tabernacle, that wilderness tent where our people encountered their God. Now, for the last 10 years, our Levi, our Rabbi Levi, has been involved in almost everything that happens at WRT. His attention to detail impressed us from the very first. When, in January 2012, I traveled, still on crutches, to Cincinnati with past President Amy Lemley and Temple President Lisa Messenger to interview rabbinical candidates, David set an almost impossibly high bar for every other applicant because he showed up to his interview already versed in every aspect of WRT's history, mission, and calendar, and asked us questions about programs he noticed on our website that I did not even know existed. The three of us were knocked out. In 2015, when our temple president, Helene Gray, and I initiated a strategic vision process for religious education at WRT, over the next 2 years, we would come to collaborate with a dynamic team of lay volunteers and professional staff to reimagine our religious school. Out of this process emerged a groundbreaking Jewish learning lab. And after an exhaustive search to identify a gifted educator to lead the lab, we asked Rabbi Levi. At first accepting the role in an interim capacity, he has now gone on to direct our JLL for 6 years, along the way earning recognition by the Jewish Education Project as one of their Young Pioneers Award winners for the year 2018. Whenever confronted with an opportunity or challenge, and that is but one example, Rabbi Levi has said, Hineni, here I am, put me in. For every hour that you have encountered Rabbi Levi on a bima, in a classroom, under a chuppah, at a staff meeting, I promise you he has invested countless hours preparing. He's been a right arm to me, anticipating needs and proactively addressing them. He's the guy with a podcast recommendation for every day of the week. And yes, he has listened to all of them because he listens to podcasts at double speed to maximize his data intake. He's also the one who will insert little bullet points into the staff meeting agenda that say things like staff redundancy protocol. And when I ask David, what is that? He will say, it is a workplace efficiency. I can't wait to tell you about it. Ask him about staff redundancy protocol at the Oneg, and he has a lot to say on the matter. Rabbi Levi has been our institutional memory, the one who remembers the child who broke her arm 3 years ago, the one who remembers the clergy Zoom password, the new one, after we had to change it because I messed up the old one by trying to log in with the wrong password too many times, And I forgot the answer to the security question as well. David is the one who remembers your yahrzeits and anniversaries of B'nai Mitzvah, who remembers the layout for Sukkah Slam, and which cantors and rabbis need to be at which services for the high holidays. He has directly and indirectly guided every student from kindergarten to 12th grade in their journeys of Jewish education, transforming our religious school and earning much-deserved recognition beyond the walls of WRT for innovations in education, like our groundbreaking partnership with BBYO. And our kids like, love, and respect and trust Rabbi Levy because he will never talk down to them and he will never be inauthentic. And above all, like the Levy of the Bible, David is a quintessential mensch whose deeds exceed his speech and whose speech and deeds exemplify integrity and sincerity. The last years have been difficult, and we are grateful that our Levi has put WRT first, as he always has, even while fully devoted to his family, as Rabbi Reeser is to his. In this time of transition, we wish Rabbi Levy Godspeed in his next engagement as rabbi and spiritual leader of Congregation Shir Ami in Greenwich, Connecticut, a post that he will hold for the coming year. We know that any community, any congregation that comes to know Rabbi Levy and to experience his leadership will be held with compassion, care, kindness, and fidelity. We have been honored and blessed to call you our rabbi and our Levi. So thank you, Rabbi Reeser and Rabbi Levy, Daniel and David. Thank you for carrying us up the mountain. Thank you for lifting us up higher in times of joy and for soothing us in our most trying hours. May each of you continue to climb the Sinai of a rabbinate that brings you spiritual satisfaction, health, and healing for the spiritual cuts and bruises that you may have sustained in the course of your time with us. May your next chapters be fulfilling, fruitful, and fun. We look forward to encountering you as you continue to lead, teach, and inspire our people in moments both lofty and lowly. And on this Shabbat Behar, this Shabbat of summits attained, may God grant each of you and your loved ones, whom we are so grateful to have in our congregation tonight, the most precious gift, the gift of a new vista, a new perspective that will allow you to move forward with confidence and hope, joy, and the blessings of the WRT community that welcomed you to the rabbinate. Shabbat Shalom. Will the congregation please rise? You may be seated.
Our hearts turn now to people whom we love who are in need of prayers of healing. And if there's someone you're holding in your heart with you this Shabbat who would feel good to know that you'd shared their name aloud with this community, I invite you to rise in your place at this time and speak their name now. In addition to these names, we as a Westchester Reform Temple community are praying this Shabbat for healing for Rachel Rackauer, Brandon Ziegler, Jen Leventhal, Roberta Friedman, Jeffrey Millman, Esther Bat-Mechel Varezel, Rachel Brucha, Steve Gradzinski, Sarah Haran, Grace Neidish, Avraham Ben Miriam, Elizabeth Hars, Barbara Feldman, Tony and Gina DeLappa, Matthew Atwood, Gloria Byron, Anthony and Elizabeth Danker, Deborah Kapnick, Nicole Shusi, Neil Glaskell, Leah Greenspan, Masha Batsora, Aviva Tzila Bat Esther Bela, Andrew Goldstein, Ken Master, Chava Batsara, Eliyahu Chaim Ben Fradel, Sheila Fried, Malka Tzipora Bas Rachel, Tamar Bat Malka, Heschel Meir Ben Davida Chana, and other names that we carry with us in our hearts. Our Misha Beirach prayer for healing can be found in our prayer books on page 371. Shabbat Shalom. We've just offered our Misha Beirach prayer for healing, but in fact, Misha Beirach is just a type of prayer, a prayer that requests blessing for the person on whose behalf the prayer is being said. There are lots of different kinds of Misha Beirach prayers, most famously the one for someone who's sick. But other types of Misha Beirach prayers include someone who's just had an Aliyah to the Torah, or a couple that's about to enter the chuppah before their wedding. And there's also a Misha Berach prayer, a request for blessing, that can be offered on behalf of a sacred community, on behalf of a synagogue like this one. And it's this final kind of Misha Berach LaKahal, a prayer for blessing for this synagogue, that we'd like to offer now. Would the congregation please rise? Misha Berach Avotenu v'Imotenu, Avraham, Yitzchak v'Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel v'Leah, Hu Yivarech et HaKahal HaKodesh Hazeh. May the eternal God of blessing, who blessed our ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, send abundant blessing to this sacred community of Westchester Reform Temple. O God, our ancestors had an insight, a glimmer of spiritual wisdom that they passed down to their children and to their children's children, an insight which has in turn been passed down to us. Our ancestors realized and taught these words: place this instruction which God has commanded you this day upon your heart. Teach it faithfully to your children. Inscribe it on the doorpost of your house and on your gates. God, our ancestors recognized the sacred power of the doorpost, of the place that is neither inside nor outside, a place that is in between, the place on the cusp, the place of transition. Our eternal God, this holy congregation of Westchester Reform Temple stands now at a doorpost. We stand in a moment of transition. Some of us are going out. Others among us will soon come in. The majority of us are going nowhere in particular. But nevertheless, all of us, whether we are in motion or whether we are standing still, together we as a community are in a moment of great transition. Transitions can bring with them all kinds of conflicting emotions. They're at once beginnings and also endings. They are at once both exciting and also unsettling. Transitions are at once both full of new possibilities and also filled with loss. Our ancestors recognized that in a moment like this one, when our hearts are pulled in so many different competing directions, we need something that grounds us. And so our ancestors instructed us: mount a mezuzah on every doorpost, a powerful reminder of their belief that you, our loving God, go with us through all life's transitions. And so we pray, Mi sheberach avotenu v'imotenu. May the God who blessed our ancestors with this bit of wisdom go with us now through this hour of change. Help us, our eternal God, to navigate the complexities of being in transition. Help us make our goodbyes sincere and heartfelt. Help us open our arms and our hearts widely to embrace all the unknowns that await us, each full of its potential. Help us carry with us always the experiences we have shared, the times we've celebrated together, mourned together, prayed together, learned together, witnessed together our children's growth and change, recognized together the changes we've discovered in ourselves. Our God, in this moment of transition, help us to feel your loving presence, a presence that accompanies us everywhere. And in so doing, help us hold fast to our belief that life, the greatest of all transitions, is worthwhile and beautiful. Standing in this doorway, may we gently lift a finger to our lips, softly place a kiss upon our palm, and with the wisdom of our ancestors, lovingly reach out to touch the doorframe, that we may pass through this hour of change full of sweetness, affection, and love. Our God, help us to make this so. And together, may we say, Amen. We may be seated. Our concluding prayers begin in our prayer books on page 586. May we please rise.
האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגאון עלינו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Early in my time at WRT, a thoughtful congregant who had recently lost a loved one said to me that they learned through the process of grieving that grief never gets better, it only ever gets different. And in a few moments, as we prepare to offer the words of Mourner's Kaddish, we'll acknowledge how grief gets different, changes over time, in the weeks and eventually months, and then finally years that pass since we lay our loved ones to rest. Our grief never goes away, it only ever gets different. And so I'd ask those who are in the most immediate throes of grieving to please rise and be acknowledged in the following order. If you'd laid a loved one to rest within the past 7 days, would you please rise? Any who are within the first 30 days of mourning, would you please rise? All those in the first year of mourning, would you please rise? And if this Shabbat marks the yahrzeit, the anniversary of your loved one's death, would you kindly rise? I'd ask the entire congregation to rise as one in support of the mourners who are among us. We remember first those most recently taken from us: Lillian Starr, mother of Ron Starr and Wendy Starr; Gloria Bronstein, mother of Glenn Bronstein, Charles Bronstein, Adam Bronstein, and Wendy Horwitz; Molly Cernow, mother of Ronald Cernow; Larry Simon, father of David Simon; Ginger Smerling, mother of Linda Shapiro; Bruce McVitie, son-in-law of Sue Phillips and husband of Carol Oakes; Andrea Reiner, mother of Randy Kulang; Alexander Wexler, father of Monica Freed; Anita Diamond, grandmother of Eric Rabinowitz; Fred Nelson, father of Nancy Kaplan; Stephen Lewis, cousin of Mark Lewis. And on their Yahrzeit, the anniversary of their death, we remember Stuart Abrahams, Judy August, Raymond A. Babin, Pearl Bader, Rosalind Baum, Judah Bauman, Morton Black, Fred Bosses, Barbara Cooper, Joseph Chopper, Stephen Schoten, Anna Cohen, Joanne Cohen, Herbert Dardick, Rosalie Dobosh, John Dowling, Reuben Finkelstein, Judith Freed, Louis Friedman, Louise Gersh, Jeanette Schwartz, Judy Gold, Ann Silberfein, Harry B. Goldsmith, Howard Goldstein, Florence R. Guggenheimer, William Hallenbeck, Dorothy Hausberg, Harold Heller, Harry D. Henschel, Peter Jatlow, Ann Cantor, Helen Karotkin, Daniel Lemley, Ann Leventhal, Rhea Levin, Abraham Levine, Edmund Ludwig Sr., Bunny Meyerson, Ruth Moser Mirzwa, Joseph Moss, Raymond Nissim, Leslie Novick, Lucille Poppick, Sarah Ravitz, Joseph Richmond, Ruth Rocklin, Ida Romanoff, Tanya Romanoff, Sylvia Rosenzweig, Myron Marshall Serling, Annie Shapiro, Alan Schulman, Paul Stamler, Theodore Stone, Lillian Tarlin, Rose Warschauer, Burl Weiss, John R. Wiley, and other names that we carry with us in our hearts. If there are any names to add to our commemoration that have not yet been spoken aloud, or names that I've inadvertently mispronounced, I invite you to share them now. The words of the Mourner's Kaddish are found on page 598. Let us give thanks for the gift of life. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba, bi'alma divrach girute v'amlich malchute, b'chayachon uvyomechon uvchaye dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehi shmei rabba mivarach le'olam ulamei amaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitale v'yithalal shemei d'kudsha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, ta'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav, hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen.
Oseh shalom b'mramav, hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen.
You may be seated.
And now we invite up our temple president, Warren Haber, to offer some remarks.
Thank you all for joining us this evening. I'd like to thank our greeters, BK Mungia and John Mark. Thank you for your help. We have 4 mitzvahs this week. Theodore Hochberg, Maya Glasser, and Sarah Mayer and their families are all celebrating tomorrow, Saturday. And on Thursday, Ryan Hirschhorn and his family are celebrating. Torah study tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Via live stream or in person. We also have a Sharon Shabbat tribute to our outgoing rabbis at 9:30 a.m., as well as Sunday morning, we have a JLL tribute and brunch at 9:45. We also have our annual congregational meeting Tuesday, May 24th at 7:30, held in the tent, unless it's raining again, and then we'll be here. I wanted to make some brief remarks regarding our 2 outgoing rabbis. I thought the best way to kind of encapsulate their lasting impression on our congregation is to use some quotes. As Rabbi Blake mentioned, Rabbi Levy received the Distinguished Young Pioneers Award in 2018, and upon receipt of this award, he stated, "I am so lucky to be working in an institution that celebrates change and isn't afraid to explore new ways of doing things, and I'm honored that the Jewish Education Project is recognizing the way in which I'm leading a living laboratory of Judaism and Jewish experience." As everyone's aware, Rabbi Levy is a staunch proponent of Jewish education. In addition, social action is a hallmark of his rabbinate. In terms of social action, Rabbi Levy has led countless trips to the South to educate congregants on civil rights and the families that have been enslaved in our country. One example of social action is to address food insecurity in this country, and to that end, this Is Hunger exhibit brought the stark realities of hunger to this community. Rabbi Levy stated, "We often think of hunger in stereotypes, such as the homeless person walking down the street. But the reality of hunger in Westchester is much more complex. The exhibit that was showcased here several years ago gives us an opportunity to engage the whole community with an incredible experience that will change the way you look at hunger. We want to help everyone understand that those who are hungry can be your neighbor who just lost her job, or the teenager at school who can't concentrate properly because he isn't eating enough nutritious food at home." Thank you, Rabbi Levy, for everything you've done for our community. Rabbi Reeser believes in the power of the story, and I decided after going through a number of his drashes that there were 2 that resonated with me, and so I'll cut to the chase. The first of which was the people of the book, where Rabbi Reeser concluded, "Perhaps this is what we mean when we say that we are the people of the book. Not just that we are a people who loves to read and write, but more importantly, that we are people who believe that even when we feel alone, even when we feel that all seems lost and senseless, we nevertheless can always reach for a book and find there waiting for us exactly the thing that we need: guidance, wisdom, inspiration, companionship, the lofty ideals that we most associate with God. For us, a book is like the divine, a loving friend, eternally present, just waiting to be opened." A second drash, more recently, is "Something's Coming," regarding a musical theatrical performance that Rabbi Reeser elaborates on. In conclusion, he states, "This is what the act of prayer is all about, to help attune us to the wisdom of our tradition, a wisdom put forth by Abraham and Sarah and carried on by Rebekah, the wisdom that our life and our world can be so much more than meets the eye. Prayer is not the act of reciting ancient words in a foreign language in hopes that they might somehow please an invisible God. Rather, prayer is the act of getting in touch with the yearnings of our heart, of keeping our gaze towards the horizon, of dreaming of a world that is as yet unknown." Thank you, Rabbi Reeser. I'd now like to invite up Leah Dembitzer and Elaine Rosenstein, co-chairs of the Tribute Weekend, to present gifts to the rabbis on behalf of the congregation. Shabbat Shalom.
Rabbi Reeser, I have mixed emotions standing up here today at this moment of transition. You are an integral part of my experience, of our experience here at WRT. But I also know that new life adventures await you and that you will bring much joy, comfort, and leadership to your new congregation. As everyone who knows you no doubt would attest, you are an incredible rabbi. You are a confidant, a counselor, a teacher, a leader, a storyteller. Your presence as a member of our clergy team has enhanced and enriched our sacred community, and your leadership and friendship has connected you with our entire congregation. I have known you since you started here at WRT. You have taught my 3 children. You presided over Lucas's bar mitzvah service in June 2020 in the muck of the pandemic. You created a beautiful milestone for our family. You have given support and kindness to my family throughout the difficult illness and loss of my father, and you still check in on me just to talk. Thank you for listening to me all the time. Your kindness, empathy, and sensitivity to the cycle of life, to all of these moments that challenge us, is incredibly comforting. Rabbi Reeser, you exemplify the sacred Jewish value of tikkun olam, repairing the world, making the world a better place. And my life is better for having known you, for your friendship, as you helped my family and all of our families grow and learn and experience what it means to be part of a sacred community. On behalf of WRT, it is my privilege to tell you that we are giving you a series of books that you may use in your continuing Jewish studies, leadership, and rabbinate. In addition, you will receive a tribute book full of messages and well wishes from your congregants. Thank you for all that you've given of yourself to our community over these past 6 years. You have inspired so many with your brilliance and kindness. Know that you will be deeply missed. Wishing you all the best on this new adventure. And just for the congregation, if you would like to still submit a tribute message to Rabbi Reeser or Rabbi Levy's book, we will have the submission website open throughout the weekend for anyone else who would like to contribute a tribute to the rabbis. Thank you very much.
This is a hard one for me, but I'm going to do my best. So, Rabbi Levy, it's been a true blessing for me to have had the opportunity to work with you over your years here at WRT. You and I have had the chance to work together on so many different, difficult, and important matters. And the fact is, those countless committees and task forces that we have shared, phone conferences and Zoom calls, and emails back and forth, have been all the more invaluable to me, and I hope our entire WRT community, because mostly they centered around the literal future of Reform Judaism, our children. Whether you are greeting every child and parent at the door before class or just hanging out with our teens, your constant positivity and good cheer brightens everyone's day and makes us feel a little happier and a little more connected. You have inspired us on the Bima and in adult study, and you have led us through some of the most complicated and difficult periods imaginable while reinventing our Jewish Learning Lab and our teen program. Your annual trips to the Deep South, which have been mentioned many times, with our 8th graders and their parents, have enlightened so many of our members about the Jewish perspective on the civil rights movement and gave us a fuller view of how Jewish values fit into the larger world of Tikkun Olam for the future. I'm confident that your legacy of experiential learning will continue here, and that the impression you have left here will be indelible. But putting aside how smart you are, and how dedicated and how progressive you're thinking, really, Rabbi Levy, as Rabbi Blake said, you're just a mensch. All anyone has to do is observe you teaching or hanging out with our kids, toddlers to teens, and they will see the love that the kids have for you. As you know, my own 3 kids are huge Rabbi Levy fans. And all you have to do is engage in a conversation on any topic, be it the latest TV shows, to current events, to foodie wisdom, to show us how much of a joy for life you have and a desire to pass on a little of that joy to others of every age. So it's hard to say farewell, but to make the parting a bit sweeter, we would like to present you with a gift of learning. We hope you will enjoy a gift certificate to study at Yeshivat Hadar in New York City. And think of your WRT family while you continue to expand your horizons and continue on your life's journey. And like Rabbi Reeser, you will also be receiving a book of tributes written by WRT members that we hope that it will help keep us in your heart, because you will certainly be in ours.
Thank you, Leah. Thank you, Elaine, for closing out our tributes tonight from the Bima. And in a moment, we will transition through a doorway that doesn't have a mezuzah. You're just going to, after our concluding song, Kiddush and Motzi on the Bima, we hope that you'll join us for this reception. We've brought in a lot of fresh air, and I think the rain has stopped, so if you want to go outside and take some nosh. But mostly what we hope you'll do is offer your own words of gratitude and thanksgiving to Rabbi Levy and Rabbi Reeser as our tribute continues informally over some light nosh. At this time, we would love to invite the entire congregation to stand with us as we will sing a prayer for the journey forward, Tfilat HaDerech. Please join us.
If you'd like to follow along in your prayer book, the words are on page 649.
May we be blessed as we go on our way. May we be guided in peace. May we be blessed with health and joy. Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, b'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit, ki hu yom techilah lemikra'ei kodesh, zecher litziat Mitzrayim, kivanu v'acharta v'otanu kidasha mikohabim v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat. Amen.
We have a hermetically sealed challah. Please join as we give thanks for the blessings that sustain life and community. Baruch atah
Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Amen. Shabbat shalom.
All right. And why is that? No, I'm joking. It's because of him. It's him. Thank you. Shabbat shalom.